welcome to this week's episode of Se Vuelve Podcast. My name is Monica, and I want to thank you for being here. I'm trying really hard not to tear up, but I already am tearing up. We're here. This is quote unquote episode 24. We made our goal of releasing 24 episodes for 2024. And, there was moments throughout the last couple months that I didn't think we were going to be able to do 24 episodes. Just because moments got busy, maybe I got sick, other things. But we're here celebrating the 24th episode for 2024. All right, so maybe you're noticing that this episode did not come out on Thursday. And that's because Thursday it's a new year. And interesting enough, this episode is actually, as you can see, it came out on New Year's Eve. And there's a reason why that happened. I originally told you that this podcast was supposed to come out last year for 2023. And the date that I had chosen was New Year's Eve of 2023. But unfortunately, I had to delay the podcast. And, obviously we know now that it came out months after. So here we are, 24th episode. And I originally knew that I wanted to do this 2024 reflection just to kind of talk about, but also kind of reflect how the year went. I think one of the things that I did learn, and I can say reflect on the year, is that this year really forced me to meet it where it was at or where I was at. Even now when I was like, oh, what do I talk about in this episode? Like, what if this? And, my mind started to rush. And I really wanted this episode to be slower paced. I'm like, I'm going to reflect on how the year went and also acknowledge my accomplishments, because there were some times that I didn't think that I was going to be able to release 24 episodes. I really set that goal because at that point when I started this podcast, it was like mid-year and I was like, oh, we have 24 more weeks, which if we think about it as a big hole, right? 24, I'm like, that's a lot. That's why I kind of set it at a smaller goal of releasing an episode a week, right? One episode a week, regardless of what the time was. This year has been eye-opening for me. This year has been a little bit of a struggle because, at the beginning of this year, I wanted to make this happen so badly, but it wasn't meant to come out around that time. And I think that was because I was meant to focus on what I was going through at those times. So that took precedence. I kept saying like, oh, divine timing, divine orchestration. I truly believe that this came to life exactly when it was meant to. As a reflection, there were struggles, there was wins, there was many tears, there was lots of laughs, and I'm truly happy I was able to create a space and connect with people that I hadn't spoken to in a really long time and also had seen in a really long time. And I truly hope that I was able to share stories that maybe help people, that maybe taught people some things, even felt, maybe you could relate to. I went in with the best intentions to create a podcast for the people and for myself as well. I'll say it again. I really think that this year really taught me to slow down, be present, live sometimes a couple weeks at a time, maybe a week at a time, day by day, even sometimes some days like a couple hours, an hour in a day, It really taught me to be into me, myself, where I am at, and to be okay, because this year was a little confusing. Maybe at points I felt lost and I didn't know which direction to go in. I've always said that there's a beauty in the unknown, and while it can be scary, as a person who's trying to be in control, a lot of the times I have to learn to let go sometimes. That's exactly what happened this year. I had to take those guards down, those walls down a little bit. It will allow the space for me to be able to do this. There was times where I had to be vulnerable. I think that for me, the most difficult part of doing this podcast was those solo episodes, just because I like to ramble, I like to go on a tangent. And it's harder for me sometimes, right? It's hard for me to face yourself, to reflect on yourself by yourself. Sometimes we're our harshest critics. I will say that it's easier for me to do the episodes with people because it allows for people to others to talk. It allows for conversation, but I think it's also important that we take the time to talk to ourselves, reflect on ourselves. This year, like I mentioned, was a very hard year, personally, emotionally, mentally, maybe even physically sometimes. But it was also a beautiful year because this passion project, it came to life. I just want to say thank you to all my guests that I had this year. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your vulnerability. Thank you so much for allowing me the space, the time to share your stories. It was a pleasure being able to connect and talk with you. And I'm so happy that I was able to have you as my first guest for the podcast. I want to thank those individuals who were able to submit those stories. Thank you so much. You don't know how much it made me happy to be able to share your little messages and how much you helped me, because then you were able to help me create those episodes. I want to thank all the individuals who listened to the episodes. Whether maybe you listen to one or a couple, or maybe you listen to every single one, all 24 episodes. Thank you so much for your time and for allowing me to speak to you. Thank you so much. Maybe you're wondering what's going to happen for Se Vuelve Podcast for 2025. I will say this, I am going to be taking a little bit of a break for a couple months. One of the reasons is because I really want to take that time to kind of reflect and look over and maybe even kind of soundboard with my friends to see what worked and what didn't work. Or even so, if I'm going to be changing up anything, it's some time to kind of reflect on these episodes and just to see how do I want to move forward. So we will be taking a little bit of a break. I didn't even think about this, but it like hit me when I was kind of reflecting on this that we will be starting 2025 with the 25th episode. Isn't this kind of telling, isn't it? But it hit me and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So that's kind of like the podcast reason of why we're taking a little bit of a break. I also wanted to take a little bit of a break just because the last couple months I've been working my job and also working on the podcast and trying to live, right? So I wanted to take some time off just to have off and enjoy it myself. It's going to sound a little maybe out there. There's moments in our lives where we have to be like nature. In the spring, you're kind of planting the seeds so that for the summer, you can kind of like harvest. And then for the fall, the leaves start to fall, things start to slow down a little bit. And then come winter, where the snow's on the ground and there's the stillness of the animals, of nature. Like nature, we're meant to take these breaks, to have these cycles. So I'm choosing right now to have a little bit of a winter, to slow down, to reflect, to take a break. With winter, snow represents purification. It's like a clean slate. And that's what I plan to do right now. And this is not necessarily for everybody, but for me, I learned that the winter, right? Even though our new year tends to be in winter, for me, I kind of stop trying to set this goal and this right, because we noticed when people make all these goals like I'm gonna lose weight or this and that, right, and they join the gym, but then after a little while, for some people, these things fall out of place. I made the decision that for me, I want to slow down in winter and then pick things back up once we hit our spring to lay those seeds. So I'm going into 2025 kind of resting, reflecting, and taking it day by day. Trying not to stress out about it. And trying not to jump ahead and meet myself where I am at and go from there and see how things unfold. I hope that you are taking this time to be kind to yourself, to take care of yourself, love yourself, prioritize yourself. Thank you so much for listening to me in 2024, and I hope that you'll come back for 2025 as this is coming out on, like I said, December 31st, the last year of 2024. I just want to say thank you so much, and I hope that 2025 is an even better year for you. Happy New Year, everybody. or happy almost New Year. And thank you so much. As always, I just want to say thank you to anyone who tunes in to listen. I would appreciate if you could leave a review and would be grateful if you could let me know what information resonated with you. Please follow and share on social media. The pages are at Se Vuelve Podcast or my personals at Se Vuelve Monica. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Nos vemos pronto. Talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.